Let's welcome David Schneiderman.
Thank you, Eckert, and I just want to invite people to move up to these tables if you want. Come on up here and get a little closer. Okay, fine, stay there. I thought for some reason that I was going third, and I'm only slept 4 hours last night. I've been doing lots today. I'm a little tired, and so when Eckert began introducing who I thought was Yuri, I was like, boy, Yuri and I have done a lot of the same stuff. And then about halfway through, I realized it was me. My most recent book is Blank, a blank novel, and the color edition has come out at AWP. It's at the Jaded Ibis Press table. I was going to read some new things because I often do these short, pithy bits, and my table mates convinced me to do a mix. So I'm going to do a mix of old favorites and something new. I don't think I want to stand here. This one? What is this one? Yeah, okay. And can people hear me if I just do this, too? Can you hear me in the back? Good? Better? No? Well, maybe we'll do this, okay. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, auto-summarized to 85 words. Alice's Adventures, Alice's right foot, Esquire, with Alice's love. Poor Alice, I suppose so, said Alice. Alice felt dreadfully puzzled. Alice sighed wearily. Alice asked. Alice ventured to ask. Alice was silent. Yes, shouted Alice. What for, said Alice. Alice thought to herself. No, said Alice. Alice asked. Alice went on eagerly. No, indeed, said Alice. I never thought about it, said Alice. Alice was thoroughly puzzled. Alice whispered to the griffin. Alice's evidence. Nothing, said Alice. Everybody looked at Alice. I won't, said Alice. Thank you. Here's a new piece I never read. I don't think I'm done with it. He drew the police in different voices. This is Chicago piece. The tripod lost its balance as Bertle sent the camera, an oversized Nikon Jimmy to the base, hurtling down the flat sheen of the skyscraper. Fast along the rim of steel and glass tower, a structure born from a Mies van der Rohe sketch, the Nikon snapped to life and began its series of shunted arabesques. The looping cranes along the basis of the south bank, the cumulus clouds stretched into toffee flavors, hazelnuts above the muddy city. At maximum velocity, the camera could snap 24 frames per second. Hurdle viewed the output on a small screen embedded into his palm, wrapped with a leather strap in the binding of the mystic Hebrew letter Shin. When the camera hit the ground after falling the 300 or so stories to the bottom of the metropolitan sea, the box on Bertle's forehead exploded, and in less than a moment, the entire city would collapse. Bertle considered the gases in his stomach rising through his esophagus and finally blowing free. Free winds, free markets, free enterprise, free bodies, no longer shackled to the human figure, so beautiful and secretive and thick with disease in his rotten tooth, black with sugary soot. The camera snaps away. Indeed, the flat space Hurdle spent most of his adult life suggesting, outlining, scripting, could be brought to the planet not by some mere force of will. He had abandoned Crowley-esque chalk circles and demon summoning as a remnant of childish nothings, but through a process of intense image capture. Now, the lowliest tom-tom with basic Nikon could snap, and so freeze the sun at apogee along the rim of a steel and glass building, could sever the nerve fibers of your cubicle mate, a boning knife removing the information of stored energy in marbled human fat from the information of the skeletal frame. Skin pictures, Bertle introduced the technology at the Chicago trade show some years ago. Image capture that penetrates the subject. Shoot the wall and see the studs and nails and termite eggs laying dry and cold in their wooden sanctuaries. Shoot human skin and in the exposure find a world of vacuoles defecating at the amoebic level. Bertel considered the interior of the entire universe to be likely a second universe in microcosm. That his skin shot, now, once the Nikon finished its descent, would permit the screen in his palm to delve into exactly the sort of genetic code that would unwind the band of human atrocity, the very existence of the human, and so reveal what revelation can never reveal. Nothingness as presence, a demi-atom creating and moving the void into complex cabaret show arrangements, black-faced protons, Sally Bowles nucleotides, swastikas the Hindu kind, waving windmills on the planets of a viral galaxy set inside and under his left pinky cuticle. Of course, he has it all wrongward in backsplash and switchback. The Nikon hits the ground and nothing explodes. Expect the communication medium itself, backsplattering into Old English from the beginning. At, say, Ruma, before it, Hellerschap, Tun, Bekumen, An, Bapian, Onweg, I, Pal, Is, Wheelspell, Al, Rit, Pone, Firas, Irta, Firas, A, Eraton, and Blood, Onse, Klistmel, Pikun, and we, Besion, Tose, Morgenstora, Sion, Se, Ag, Urg, Dead, Grog, and Greman. Before slinging back to the present, shit, motherfucker, grug. A businessman in steel-rimmed fedora approaches the Nikon and gives the still-snapping camera a middle-finger tase. Bertel's shin wrap crackles to life, and fuck, this feels in the back of his brain. Who knows the long-term implications this morass of lightning language particles will bring if his team ever succeeds in slowing the heat loss of a cup of coffee to the asymptote closest to zero. Suspended heat loss. For all intents and purposes, the coffee stays warm forever. His wife whispers back in their well-appointed Gold Coast apartment. Bertel quivers under the poultice of salves and bombs and the word abracadabra on the dressing that she, Myrtle, as it wraps in the slowest of slow motions. She picks shards of LCD screen from his palm and he considers the problems. Slow everything to nothing or almost nothing, and the wounds can never heal and will always burn the roof of our mouths on coffee. Oh God, coffee spiked with a bit of whiskey would hit the spot, but we'd be drunk forever and forever. And what would an orgasm feel like if it took days and days to unfold against the protracted shiver of the backbone, the interlocking sensation of the many tiny vertebrae, the cramping, the god-awful cramping of the legs folded in untoward positions while we mount and she'd go doggy style for the entire tenure of marauding alpha wolf to little shits like the Cocker Spaniel, and then on down the line until each pelvic thrust makes a new one. Affenpinscher, Brussels Griffin, Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, Havanese, Fox Terrier, and on beyond Toy Zembla. So no, fuck, make that rule number one, no matter how much she begs. Who has time for anything pleasurable when the entire act becomes one big opium drag? Let's reboot the problem. Myrtle, it's time we stop doing it. This thing, when we fuck. What? You heard me, the next phase of this thing is celibacy. Purity of matter, purity of heart, purity of mind. Sorga? Grog? That's right, below the belts is off limits. Now, let's get back to the lab. The journey down the elevator from floor 298 to floor 251, the location of Bertel's lab seems interminable. Myrtle skulks in the corner of the freight conveyance, and Bertel does his best to watch the elevator numbers as bubbling gases of his stomach rise through the intestinal cavity and have nowhere really to go. This occurs to Bertel in a wave of sorts, a suspended fragment of the journey lower, the skin pictures of his Nikon army gurgling in the lab and sending the interior architecture of the universe, or at least this universe, in a series of wireless transmissions that can never stop downloading. So slow, this terrible bandwidth, as the elevator keeps everything in a cocoon of protracted stillness, that the illusions of motion is all that remains, and Myrtle, shit, oh shit, looks almost skeletal in the corner of this thing, and even her bones are mildly arousing when the soft fluorescent lights of the thing illumine the structure of her human frame and suggest the location of organs deteriorating in the fizzle of this moment. Don't do it. Look away. It's a long ride down. Despite the demons of his better nature, Bertel becomes aroused, feels a world invest itself in his erection, triumphant for thousands of years to come. He opens his mouth toward his wife and suggests something completely unspeakable. Thank you. This is from Melanie Page, who made the request. You have to know the wooden airplane boat, the Spruce Goose, Howard Hughes' boat. Flew one time. This is called That Thing Will Never Fly. The spruce goose is responsible for global warming. The spruce goose is always the dominant partner. The spruce goose is all in your mind. The spruce goose is sponsored by Eli Lilly. The spruce goose is the spruce goose is the spruce goose. The spruce goose is a fair weather friend. The spruce goose is armed with pepper spray. The spruce goose is for nuclear power. The spruce goose is not germophobic. The spruce goose is agoraphobic. The spruce goose is chock full of vitamins and nutrients. The spruce goose is tired of bad relationships. The spruce goose is looking for a good diet pill. The spruce goose is no longer shaving under its arms. The spruce goose is afraid, very afraid of Google Earth. The spruce goose is boycotting the Rio Olympics. The spruce goose is sick of the friendly skies. The spruce goose is sure no one cares. The spruce goose is running for president. The spruce goose is voting early and often because it's Chicago. The spruce goose is manipulating your chi. The spruce goose is affectionate like a puppy dog. The spruce goose is part of a new media paradigm. The spruce goose is blogging about its own shortcomings. The spruce goose is dousing your french fries in salt. The spruce goose is moving at the speed of wood. The spruce goose is crazy for boy bands. The spruce goose is fragmenting history. The spruce goose is actualizing the rainforest. The spruce goose is an environmental mess. The spruce goose is a poor communicator. The spruce goose is illegally dumping in the river. The spruce goose is up on cement blocks in your front yard. The spruce goose is forever 21. Thank you very much.